All right, so here we go. Next match of the day. We got LA Infamous, Team Infamous, taking on Vicious. And this should be an interesting matchup. Start of the afternoon division. We're here in very beautiful Galveston, Texas. Day is opened up, bright blue sky. And we're about to watch the first point kick off. Good breakout from Infamous. Able to get out, bodies alive. Both sides of the field doubling up that back center. John Richardson and Travis Lemansky, and a pretty good breakout for Vicious as well. Vicious doubled up in the back center. And then trying to get into Snake 1, able to do it. Oh, they lose their back player on the Snake side of the field. Infamous pressing up the Dorito side. Vicious pressing up the Snake side. And Zach Wake immediately counters Vicious's move, gets to Snake 2. He's trying to shoot down the line. Oh, Brian Bortle taken out, and Zach Wake takes advantage of that, gets past the 50-yard line. He's trying to get a shot on that back center. Zach Wake hunting right now. And on your screen, you can see at the bottom that Zach Wake past the 50-yard line. Trying to get a shot on the Dorito side of the field. That's all that's left for Vicious. They have 3 players. Oh, nope, they lose the back corner on the Dorito side. And their back center as well. And it's looking like this point is going to go for Infamous as they start swarming downfield. And John Richardson is going to polish off the last player for Vicious. So nice job by Infamous, going to get on the board here. Score is going to be 1-0 as long as Marcelo is clean. So Marcelo is going to walk that flag in. Nice point by Infamous. They look very strong. Interesting story about Marcelo. Marcelo actually had to have reconstructive knee surgery, blew out his ACL, and he's coming back from that, and he looks strong. Infamous fielding a very strong squad this year. They've put the squad together last season and are really trying to take the advances they felt they made last season. They got a lot of experience on that squad too. You're talking about John Richardson, one of the legends of the sport, and one of the more creative and athletic players to play the game, who still, after all the seasons he's played, still able to do it, and trying to impart some of his knowledge on those younger players. However, those younger players on the team, on Infamous, really have made a name for themselves. I mean, you're talking about Bobby Aviles, Marcelo Margot, Zach Wake. I mean, those are some of the most talented players in the game at this stage, and they've been playing, even though they're young, they have been playing at a high level for a long period of time. About 45 seconds to go for the start of this next point. Now, on the flip side of it, Vicious, they came into the Pro Division last year and struggled, though they did have minor successes along the way. They were able to knock Dynasty out of the World Cup last year, which is an impressive feat because Dynasty is always strong at the World Cup. And they have some really talented players too. It's really cool to see a homegrown group of guys come up from the Midwest. I mean, they didn't have really good teams to practice against for years, so they just really organically grew out of Omaha. And just through sheer will and work ethic, we're able to build the franchise into what it is today. 5 seconds to go before the start of this next point. So you're looking at you're looking at Infamous's breakout right now. Infamous able to get out to the back corner. That's Justin Swartz, who was a star on Dynasty for a long period of time, ended up making the move to Infamous last season. And there we go, Infamous able to get into Snake 2. Right now on your screen, you're looking at Infamous dominating the Snake side right now, trying to get those cross-field shots. So Infamous is dominant field position on both sides of the field as they have a player in the 50-yard line, Dorito. Vicious struggling, losing 2 players early. They have 3 bodies left alive. Now the 2 bodies left alive are on the Dorito side of the field. So Justin Swartz and Callie Rudolph trying to make something happen over here. And all they have to do is just go slow and methodical, and they're going to be able to take this point. Vicious struggling here early. And Infamous playing aggressive and strong right out the get. And we had Nikki Cuba up earlier doing a little play-by-play, and that's what he said that we need to expect from Infamous, is that they're going to come out aggressive. They've been watching these teams, and they feel that they know what they need to do in order to be able to play this field aggressive, which honestly is kind of tough. This isn't a field that's super conducive to aggressive moves off the break, but they are there. But you have to run and gun and get a little bit creative as how to get in those spots. But really, this field is more of a counterpunch field. You can get to those spots, but once you get to those spots, the important spots, then kind of the game plays out from there. You're watching a lot of guys earlier on today dying out of their bunkers, and some teams really struggling with that, which obviously is going to cause your team problems. Another key thing for Infamous is to play without penalties. Sometimes they can be a team that struggles with penalties. So keys to their victory is staying out of the penalty box. Also, they're a team that really does ride that aggressive high, and when they're playing like this, as they go up early 2-0 here against Vicious, that's when they really start to hit their stride. Now, Vicious, they're really good at shooting off the break. They're very good at teamwork, and they have Brian Bortle has been he's been stepping up his game on the Snake side of the field. But the thing is that this field isn't really dominant for the Snake or the Dorito. It's about because the field's now 20 feet longer. Changes this year. No coaching from the pits, and the field is 20 feet longer than it was before. Therefore, less people are getting shot off the break. It's easier to make your spots. Some teams have consistently been able to shoot players off the break. Dynasty was able to shoot some players off the break consistently. The Russians, of course, no stranger to being able to shoot people off the break. So that was effective for those teams, but it's just more difficult to do it with the longer field. So Vicious, that's been one of their keys to the games that they were able to win. So they're going to have to be able to incorporate that change into their game. Got about 5 seconds to go for the start of this next point. All right, so breakout 5 guns up for Vicious as they streak out both sides. Running and gunning to the stand-up can on the Snake side of the field and the back Dorito corner. And he gets shot trying to get up the field on the Dorito side to try to fill out. It's like Parker trying to fill out for Vicious. He gets taken out. So Vicious just struggling right now to make it out to their bunkers. Infamous is just definitely shooting their lanes effectively and then counterpunching after that and making these aggressive moves. You're looking at Vicious on your screen right now. Oh, just dying out of their bunkers, and that's what I'm talking about. That's really been the struggle for some of these teams. Dynasty, when they were struggling earlier on today, though, they had a pretty decent day. That was their Achilles heel, was getting shot out of those bunkers. Just 2 players left for Vicious in the back corners. And they're going to try to cross it up and stop the aggressive onslaught that Infamous has been able to bring so far. You're looking at Zach Wake right there. That last shot, bottom part of your screen, the Snake. And now you're looking at Vicious, top right-hand corner of your screen, trying to zone up and get a shot on the Snake. Zach Wake making a move to the 50-yard line, Snake. Oh, and Vicious just continuing to struggle. Brian Bortle got stuck in that back corner bunker because he lost so many guys earlier. He didn't have anywhere to go, couldn't make any moves. He ends up getting taken out, so just 1 Vicious player left alive. And it's Hooker. Chris Hooker, he's a great shot, really good at landing off the break, but just it's really asking too much of him to be able to take out 4 Infamous players by himself as John Richardson walks that flag in. John Richardson is very physical, gym rat. Spends a lot of time working on making sure his body is in good physical condition to play paintball. However, unfortunately, he's just been playing so many years that he just has minor physical joint issues that he just has to deal with on a day-to-day basis when he's out here playing, which Hasn't really slowed him down much so far. But, you know, as these veterans kind of get into their later stages of their career, you just wonder how long can they play at 100%. Nicky Cuba making an appearance for Infamous. So Infamous complete and utter domination thus far. The score is 3-0. Tons of time left on the clock. Huge point for Vicious right now. They got to get on the board. You know, and this game is a game of momentum. And when you start to see those points racked up against you, and you're looking up at that board, getting ready to play the next point, it starts to get a little daunting when you're seeing those 3 zeros, 4 zeros on the board. So big point for Vicious here. Let's see if they can get something going. So they can't really get started. You know, they're not getting all their guys out to their spots. Infamous is doing a good job of shooting guys off the break. Also, they're having guys die in their bunkers, and you just can't do that at this level of the game. About 20 seconds left to go before the start of this next point. I'm Matty Marshall. We're here at the inaugural event of the PSP season 2011. We're here in Galveston, Texas, bringing paintball back to Texas. We had Steve Rabikoff up here earlier, and Houston, not a far drive from Galveston, where Rab is from. So on the breakout here, you're looking at Justin Swartz from Infamous in that back corner bunker, and Infamous finally losing some bodies off the break, as Callie Rudolph and Bobby Avilas both getting shot. So just 3 players left alive. And now Drew Templeton able to get into the 50-yard line. Snake, gets bounced. There's definitely an angle coming in from that back corner that just dives right in on that Snake player, the 50-yard line. So that's, you know, something that these guys need to take into consideration. Now, he doesn't have anyone. He does have Chris Hooker behind him. There he goes, able to make that next bump up. They also have the 50-yard line Dorito as well. So this is a big point for Vicious, as I was saying, you know, just a few seconds ago, that, you know, they need to get on the board here and try to steal back some of that momentum. It's the first event of the season, first game for them, for both these teams actually, of the season. Game slowed down a little bit here. Infamous crossing it up. And we've been seeing that a lot. Once you get those guys stuck in those back 2 corner bunkers, they've just been able to cross up. Now, I'll tell you what I would like to see is more guys not dying out of those back bunkers and making guys come get them, as we're seeing happen right here. This is what I'm talking about. That's what you want to happen. Make that guy make that aggressive move all the way down the field. But you see, Justin Swartz got shot out of his bunker. So if he would have been able to stay alive in there, it would have enabled Infamous to hold off the Vicious onslaught for a little bit longer. So Vicious, actually that's Brock. Oh, Brock playing for Vicious and hanging that flag. Brock, old school Midwest baller, played for Diesel, now on the Vicious squad. So the score now 3-1. You know, a lot of these teams are running smaller squads. You know, have 8, 7 guys out there, and which is good for the flow, good for the flow of the team in order to get them in their groove. But it gives you less depth, and you know, some of these teams are plagued by injuries, and you know, relatively healthy right now, but you got 2 players on Infamous coming off of knee rehabs. And I'm particularly interested to see how Marcelo is going to play with his reconstructed knee, because was one of those players that he's phenomenal when he's in the zone. Helped the Ironman win some world titles when he was real young, and you know, so he had some paintball success at an early age, and now is heading into more of the middle, still early, but middle part of his career, early middle. And I'm interested to see, being on a team full of stars like, but he's no stranger to that either. But with the talent level that Marcelo has, I'm interested to see what he's going to bring to the table this year for Infamous. Got about 10 seconds to go for the start of this next point. Score is 3-1 in favor of Infamous. So on the breakout, Vicious, let's see if they can keep, nope, lose a body heading out on that Dorito side of the field. They've got 2 players stuck in the back center. Or Infamous has 2 players stuck in the back center. So Infamous losing a body on the Dorito side and Vicious losing a body on the Dorito side. Both teams with players in the back center. And there goes Travis Lemansky digging out to the back corner, losing a couple pods. You're looking at Vicious on your screen right now. Vicious shooting down that snake, back snake corner, shooting down the tape line. And then Vicious making moves up in the center. You see Vicious making a move up to the center A. And then making a big move for the flag because Zach Wake, and it looks like a penalty was assessed. So penalty, they tried to rush to get into the box. So they're the Infamous, the penalty's starting to creep up for them. So look at this, Vicious stealing the momentum. So I was talking about earlier. You have a situation where this is paintball, and it's very physical, very mentally, or it is physical, but it is a more mentally driven game. And once you start to have that point swing switch over to your side, it really helps you get centered. And a young team like Vicious, they need that. They need that to stay in this. So it was definitely a big point for Vicious. And in Infamous, like I was saying before, struggled with penalties, and penalty coming to bite them in that last point. So there's a technical timeout on the field. So it's going to be a very interesting year here for the PSP. There's been some changes in case you're first or tuning in. There's new rule instigated or implemented where there's no longer coaching being allowed on the pits side of the field, which I think, to be frank, is a very good addition to paintball. I mean, from, you know, when coaching was first brought into the game, some of the players that have been around for a while didn't like it because, you know, it enabled people to be able to counter really good moves by just screaming from the sidelines. Now, you're never going to be able to take the coaching away from the fan side of the field because, well, you know, this is America and you're allowed to say what you want. So, you know, people are going to be screaming from the sidelines. That's just part of the game. But on the pit side, it's really going to free up the great paintball players to display their skills over there, because no longer do you have to worry about pulling off a good move and then getting it ruined by the opposing team screaming he's coming, so you end up trading out with a guy instead of just taking that guy down. We're still on a technical timeout. Score 3-1, 13 minutes and 6 seconds left to play in this match. We've seen a lot of great paintball played so far. It's also been interesting because another thing that's been implemented by the PSP is that they're not releasing the layout of the field as early as they used to. That way, teams that don't have a giant bank account and tons of skids of paint to go through gives them more of a chance, because that way you don't have these people, you don't have the really well-funded teams being able to just grind out and practice, you know, 3-4 weekends before the event and perfect the field. I'm interested to see how that's going to affect teams like the Russian Legion. With Russian Legion, they obviously have some of the most skilled paintball players on the planet, talented paintball players, so you can never ever take anything away from them on that front at all. However, and they've trained to be that good, and they cultivated the talent that they had. However, one of the reasons they have been able to be so dominant is because they have been able to practice the field. They have a giant coaching staff, which they're still going to have. But when you have that many eyeballs scrutinizing the game, scrutinizing your players, scrutinizing the game plans, it really enables you to have another level of preparation that some of these other teams just can't compete with on that side of things. So, you know, and also the other big franchises, the Dynasties of the world, the Infamouses of the world that are able to practice a lot. So, and I think we saw that earlier on. You know, we had a brand new rookie team coming into the Pro Division, Chattanooga CEP, Cross-Eye Paintball, and they're out of Chattanooga, play out of Insane Paintball down there. Their player run, been around since '05, but making the big jump to the pro leagues, and they had a mixed day. Penalties haunted them. Obviously didn't play as well as they wanted to, but if I was them, I'd hang their heads high. They played Impact in the morning and were able to keep that a very close game. Ended up losing by a point, and then they got skunked by Dynasty as a pretty bad beatdown. But then they played the Ironman and had a pretty competitive game until they just straight had a penalty party out there on the field. So I think that goes to show you that, you know, when you look at that situation where these teams don't really have a good look at the fields in advance, that it will create a more competitive balance. Also, the field is 20 feet longer than it used to be, which I think is going to obviously have less people shot off the break, and with that you're going to have more people making it to their bunkers, which will enable more paintball to be played, which I think is going to be interesting as well. So with the combination of no coaching on the pit side, the field's not being released, and the field's being 20 feet longer, I think it's going to be an interesting year. And it's interesting as we keep tweaking this game to try to find that perfect format. Wow, so it looks like Infamous shooting themselves in the foot by getting 2 major penalties. And like I was saying before earlier on, Infamous has definitely been haunted by penalties in the past. It's just something that happens to that team, and they're a team that plays on their emotions. They ride that fine aggressive line, and sometimes it comes back to bite them, and it's definitely biting them right now. So, and the penalties, there's 1 minute minors, 2 minute majors, and if you get a minor penalty and lose the point, it comes off the clock, it comes off the board. If you get a minor penalty and you win the point, then that penalty will stay on until it lapses. 2 minute majors, they stay on regardless. Doesn't matter whether you win or lose the point, you have to serve the time for that major penalty. So they got Greg Sewers, John Richardson, and Kevin Callie Rudolph out there for Infamous to try to get the team back out. Now, on this field, I would try to break out wide, take those back corners, and then just grind that time off. Got about 18 seconds to start or 18 seconds to go before the start of this next point. We got ourselves a 1-point match right now. Vicious clawing themselves back into this game. The score is now 3-2, and have a major power play going on right now with Infamous having to sit 2 players in the box. Nope, still on sort of a technical timeout here as they get the clock going. I'm interested to see how aggressive of a breakout Vicious is going to use, because they do have this power play. However, one of the quickest ways to negate your power play is to try to come out too aggressive or not make your spot. I mean, you since you have the power play, you definitely want to play aggressive. But if Infamous is able to shoot a couple guys, they're going to tie it up on the body count real quick. And again, just try to grind out that time. That's the biggest thing right now. Anytime you're in this situation and you're Infamous, you really want to just try to make your spots, bring a couple extra pods, shoot your guns, stay alive, and try to just effectively grind that clock down. I'm also interested to see how Aftershock's going to play. Those games will be coming at you later on this afternoon. Aftershock, young squad, rebuilding a legendary franchise, and ended up taking second to the Russians in World Cup 2010 last year. and talking to Nick Sloviak, we had him up here, and he was pretty. I'm always impressed at the mind state that team has. They're very honest with themselves, and they really kind of understand mentally what needs to be done to try to put themselves in the best position to win. And I'm interested to see how they come back, because they did get destroyed by the Russians in the finals. They played amazing to get to the finals, but once they got there, they got skunked 7-0. Wasn't a pretty game. Had a lot of time, a real big hard time staying alive, and off the break. Now again, with the 20 extra feet and the off-season break, I'm interested to see what they're going to bring to the table. So we're still on a technical timeout here as we head into the afternoon's play here. PSP Galveston event. And you got to give Vicious some props for being able to get back in this game here. I mean, they easily could have just let Infamous go on that aggressive run and run up that score. You know, and the point differential is also something to keep in mind. The way that this works out is it goes with on your wins, but then if there's a tie, which there almost always is, you know, team may have one and one, or you know, head into the second day. But regardless, your wins are a factor. But then if there's a tie, let's say you're 3-1. Another team's 3-1 or 2-2. It's going to come down to that point differential. So when you lost, how bad did you lose? You know, for a team like Chattanooga, they took that whooping against Dynasty. That's really going to affect their point differential. Whereas, you know, the Russians actually had a mental mistake earlier on too, where they were winning the game and they let the time lapse instead of hanging the flag, because they were just kind of lackadaisically checking each other, which you know, that's something that really you shouldn't let happen when you have a team of that stature and experience, because that point, I mean, it would be really be a tragedy for them and their fans if that 1 point could come down to the difference of whether or not they make it in. Still on a technical timeout here. So yeah, interested to see what sort of aggressive play we're going to see out of Vicious. And you know, again, to talk about the Vicious franchise, you know, Greg Pauly has done a really good job, and the Bortles that support that team, they've done a really good job of honing their homegrown talent into professional paintball players, and they did it smart. They were able to really methodically progress up through the ranks and win different divisions until they finally made it into the pros. Then now they got into the pros last season, and they definitely struggled a lot. You know, they really did struggle. You're looking on your screen at the fans that have amassed to watch this game, heading into afternoon's competition. I'm really also interested to see what Tampa Bay Damage is going to bring to the table. That's a team they're going to be coming up and playing later on this afternoon. You know, Tampa Bay Damage, they are another team that has mostly homegrown talent, and they play a really aggressive style, that southern kind of brash, in-your-face, smash mouth paintball. That also another team coming up here in the afternoon bracket. That's going to be interesting to see too. It's as X Factor. X Factor is, you know, the local guys right now. I mean, they're out of San Antonio. They're not out of this area, Texas. But at the same time, it's a team that they've been hit or miss. They've not performed as well as they would have liked to historically, but they've had a lot of successes. They've won tournaments. They've, you know, proved to their peers that they deserve to be here and as one of the top teams at times. And they've really kind of put together, like, you know, bringing their boys back together. And I'm interested to see what they're going to bring to the table for the 2011 season. So we're still on this technical timeout. Score 3-2. teams are starting to make their way back onto the field, and we're getting the signal from the referees to get it rolling. It's always interesting to see, too, the teams that come out of the, you have a team like Infamous. Infamous is from Southern California, mostly. They do have some players, that don't live in Southern California anymore, that have to, get imported back in for practice. But I'm interested to see, a team like Vicious are from Omaha, and it's pretty cold in the winter in Omaha if you've never been there before. And they don't necessarily get a chance to practice as much as they would like to heading into the first events of the season. All right, here we go. All right, so good breakout from Vicious, 3 guns up, and able to get all the way up on the Dorito side. Infamous didn't break out wide. They took the 3 closest back bunkers, but important for them, everyone's alive. So they got their 3 guns up, just trying to burn that clock out, trying to get out wide, and they're able to do it. 5 players left alive for Vicious. Let's see if they can tie this game up and keep the power play. That's very key. When you're in a situation like this, you want to push aggressively, but you want to do it in a very concise manner. You're only looking at 3 guns. There's not as many guns, not as many streams of paint coming at your way. So let's see what they can do with this. Making moves up the center. Here comes Vicious. They're playing smart and methodical. This is exactly what you want to see out of them right now. Oh, and John Richardson gets shot out of that back center. Oh, and they also lose Kevin Rudolph as well. So nice job by Brock and the Vicious crew. Able to take that point and tie it up, and there's still 37 seconds left on 1 major penalty and 45 seconds left on that second penalty. And Infamous has just got to be, I'd be very disappointed right now. 1 major penalty is one thing, 2 major penalties in 1 point is just a complete lapse of judgment. Couldn't really see what their penalties were on. Might have been gun penalties, but because they have been plagued by penalties in the past, penalties are going to come. Penalties happen. It's part of the sport, and that's just the nature of the game. But you don't want them to come in waves like they do for Infamous sometimes. All right, so we got ourselves a tie game. It's 3-3 right now with 11 minutes to play, minute and 10 seconds left to go before the start of this next point. Both teams slow to put players on the field for this next point. Means they're probably doing some last-second strategizing, and that actually is going to be a huge factor in this tournament because the fields are not released as early as they were before. This team's only had about a week to look at them, and not a lot of practicing was done in that time, and they tried to get as much in as they possibly could. Some teams flying in a couple days earlier to get as many points as possible in before the actual start of the event. Still, the game plans are such a fluid thing. I mean, they're fluid even when you had 4 weeks to practice for the event. Now they don't have that luxury, so they're really in a situation where the coaches have a harder job now. The coaches are going to have a more difficult time adjusting on the fly and getting really good game plans set in motion and changing them as the game evolves. All right, so all tied up at 3 apiece, and on the breakout, Vicious on the power play. Big move up in the center. They send, looks like Parker all the way up to the center of the field. And he's trying to cut down that Dorito side. He's still alive. Vicious 5 strong. Oh, and Infamous loses Nicky Cuba. And they lose another player too, so just John Richardson. He's going to get a back massage right now. And Brian Bortle running that flag in to try to preserve the power play. So here comes Team Vicious taking the lead. Score is going to be 4-3, and those penalties just haunting Infamous right now. Only 1 second left on the first major penalty, 9 seconds left on the second major penalty. Now, the 1 second is not going to be a big deal. But where it really comes into play, and why you always, even if it's just a couple seconds, why you want to keep that time on the clock, is because the breakout's so crucial in paintball. And to have 2 less guns off the break, even if, on a 1 second delay, still that's, not, it's not just 1 second, it's the fact that he's behind a netting, so he's going to have to break through the netting and get his gun up and then shoot. So it's actually going to be a decent enough time so that Vicious is going to have a higher chance and higher probability to get out clean. Got about a minute to go here for the start of this next point. And Infamous is played kind of flat here, down bodies. They're not necessarily, maybe not flat. I can't tell from here what's going on in their pits, but they've made it to their spots. It's not like they're getting shot off the break. They're just dying out of their bunkers. And it's tough, though. If you get wide on this field, those middle bunkers in the back get pretty small. And you're definitely watching that being the case for Infamous, where they're just not quite able to live in those bunkers. And it's been their downfall right now on this run that Vicious has been going on. 15 seconds to go before the start of this next point. The score again 4-3 in favor of Vicious. So let's see now, as Infamous is about to get all their bodies back. They lose a player, lose Greg Sewers off the break, trying to break out to the back corner. And Wake getting out of the box, and he gets shot as well. So Infamous losing both their players coming in from the penalty box, and they lose Travis Lemansky, and then another penalty on Infamous. And it is a complete disaster on the penalty front for Infamous right now. They played the first couple points so great, very aggressive, methodical, and smart, and then just falling completely apart on the penalty side of things. And here comes Vicious, just not missing a moment, trying to seize the advantage. That flag being walked in right now, and they're trying to burn some time off the clock. Score is going to be 5-3 in favor of Vicious, and that minor penalty for Infamous is going to come off again. 1 minute minor penalties come off the board when you lose the point. So Travis Lemansky coming out of the box. Couldn't quite tell. I think that penalty might have been on Zach Wake. Couldn't quite tell from here. 9 minutes and 20 seconds left. And we've seen some slower matches so far as these teams feel this field out. And now I think that in the afternoon we're going to start to see quicker games. Obviously these penalties are helping speed this game up. Looks like a timeout is being called by Infamous. That's a really smart timeout to call. And if I'm their coach, right now I'd say, hey, look, forget about it. The penalties happen. That's the past. Let's get rid of mentally get rid of that baggage. We need you focused. We're coming out with 5 bodies. This game is not over. We're only down 2 points. There's a ton of time left on the clock. Get out there and do what you did to take that lead in the beginning of the game. Because Infamous did look stunning in the first part of this match. They look great, but they've really just. Like I was saying in the beginning of this game, that the key to their victory is going to be to play clean, and they haven't. They have not played clean, and they've gotten 3 penalties, 2 majors at the same time, and that's really affected them. And but when you get penalties, you just can't let it seep in to the mental aspect of the game. You have to, really kind of, and that's what I'm saying. If I was the coach right in there right now, it's Tom Martinez, I would really be adamant about making sure that you free yourself of what happened those past couple points and come out strong here. But yeah, like I was saying, the games are going to probably speed up a little bit as these teams learn the field, because what happens to slow down the action is that they're just not quite attuned to what's possible. And because these guys are the best in the sport, they will figure that out sooner rather than later, and you're going to see these crisp moves, which we saw. Actually, Infamous came out the gate. They didn't come out slow at all. First time they played the field today and in this event, and they came out real strong. Got a minute and 40 seconds left to go. So let's see if Vicious can handle all 5 Infamous players. So they got Nicky Cube out there, Justin Swartz, Kevin, Callie, Rudolph, and Greg Sewers. An interesting addition to Infamous. Greg Sewers actually was playing with Aftershock till a couple weeks ago, which, talking to Nick Sloviak from Aftershock, we're going to watch Aftershock battle in a little bit. But, you know, it was kind of a hit to their team. Greg's one of those up-and-coming guys that can play some phenomenal paintball when his head's in it. He's still a little young, a little raw, but he's starting to sharpen his skills, and more. It's not really his skills. He's very fast. His snapshot's awesome. He's very aggressive. It's just that mental aspect of the game. Now he's been doing this. He played on Excessive, played on the Ironman, played on Aftershock, and now he's playing on Infamous. So, you know, quite the decent amount of teams he's played on in a small amount of time. But I think that he could be a great addition to the Infamous squad. Got about 7 seconds to go for the start of this next point. All right, this is Vicious on your screen right now, trying to break out. That's Brian Bortle, and trying to get the stand up behind the snake. He makes it. Looks like he got bounced. Boom. And there, Infamous making a big move into the snake. Oh, but he ends up getting shot. That's Justin Swartz. Justin Swartz, one of the more dominant players on the Dorito side of the field for years for Dynasty, and struggling right here in this point, trying to make it into the snake. You see that a lot of times, these players, like for instance, Brandon Short's playing on the Dorito side now, which he's got to be enjoying because Brandon Short was only played the snake for a long period of time, and he was one of the best to do it. Now Brian Bortle making his way into the snake. Brian Bortle getting checked out by the referee, and you're looking at the back line of Infamous. And here comes Brian Bortle all the way past the 50-yard line. There's nothing stopping him. There's no player for Infamous in the back corner shutting him down. And now Brian Bortle's trying to get some crossfield shots on. Looks like he might have got a shot on Greg Sewers. Nope, wasn't able to do it. Bobby Avilas dying off the Dorito side for Infamous, though. A little bit before that. Brian Bortle in a really good position right now. He's only looking at one gun towards him right now. Infamous just dug in. Not in a good position. Dominant field position for Vicious right now. They have the 50-yard line Dorito. Brian Bortle past the 50-yard line of the snake right now. And you look at Infamous, I mean, you see they're just literally huddled in their bunkers, gunned up on their lanes. And Brian Bortle, top right-hand part of your screen, in the snake, past the 50-yard line. Just trying to search for shots. Tough, though. That's a hard position to be in. It is a dominant position. However, the next gap to cross is substantial, especially when you're looking at a couple guns. I mean, there's a giant gap that's easily covered by the position that I think that's no, it's Greg Sewers that's in that position right now, and he's shooting that lane. And you can see he's shooting right-handed in that lane. Now Brian Bortle, so look at that giant gap he has to cross. You see the Dorito, the next Dorito he wants to get to, but there's a giant, huge gap that he has to get across, and Greg Sewers is shooting that line. You can see the back center for Infamous is trying to play out in the middle. That was Nicky Cube. I'm not sure what Nicky was doing out there. Nicky gets taken out. Oh, and a major penalty on Greg Sewers. And Infamous is just falling completely apart right now. Falling completely apart. So Infamous has got to be real frustrated now. Right out the gate, looked amazing in the first couple points, and then the penalties set in. And once the penalties set in for Infamous, sometimes they set in for good. And it's just, they've really been a struggle for them so far in this game, and it's disappointing to see them do this, because they know that penalties are one of their issues, and to consistently get these penalties is just really disheartening for them, I'm sure. Now on the flip side, Vicious, they've got to be stoked right now. I mean, you're looking at a situation where they were getting whooped up on in the beginning, and then they've just gone on this run, and now they're 1 point away from taking this game. Got about a minute and 30 seconds left to go. Minute and 30 seconds left to go before the start of this next point. 6 minutes and 45 seconds left to go in the match. don't think it's, well, we'll see. If Infamous continues to just play on like wild banshees, then they're going to have some problems here in this event. This is the first we've seen too. Well, actually Chattanooga had a problem with penalties earlier on today. So, and the referees are on it, man. These are the best referees in the world, and they've been doing this for a long time. Same reffing crew's been doing this for years. So they know these players too. It's the same guys who've been playing for years mostly, with some new additions. But you're looking at Infamous right now, and they've got to get something going on. They really need to get their composure back. They have to serve another 2-minute major penalty. Again, 2-minute majors stay on the clock. Minute minors come off if you win, stay on if you lose. Vicious really should be elated at the fact that they're 1 point away from a victory here. It'll be a really good start for them to chalk up a victory against a solid team like Infamous. Even though penalties is what's killing Infamous right now, and it's not that Vicious is playing. They're playing very well, but I would be interested to see how this game would be going if Infamous wasn't just letting the refs let the flags fly. 2 doubled up in the back center for Infamous, and Vicious loses Drew Templeton trying to get out here on the Snake side. And there we go. Wake able to get all the way past the 50-yard line. He's in the Snake. He's going to try to come around there. He should go around. No one's stopping him. There he goes. Now player slides in. Might have got a shot on him. They're going to have a gunfight. Oh, and Wake losing the gunfight. So, you know, Zach Wake's just trying to get something going, but just not able to do it. Loses that gunfight. It's tough to gunfight when you're on your stomach with a back corner who's, you know, in a really good position to be able to engage in that gunfight. Got Infamous still in the Snake, though, and there is enough time. I mean, we have just under 6 minutes left here in the match, and they're going to get their player out of the penalty box in another 59 seconds. So you see on your screen, Justin Swartz trying to get something going on in the Snake. There's a lot of different spots in the Snake to get shots from. And as this tournament progresses and these players get more looks, you're going to see a lot more effective work done from the Snake players because they're just going to learn those shots. John Richardson making a move over on the Dorito side of the field. And you can see he's trying to lob it. He's trying to lob it over in that back corner. It's not an effective shot. He has a better shot on the back center, but he has to wrap around to do it. If I were him, I would try to get back more toward, well, actually I wouldn't because he just lost another back guy. And Infamous doing damage control on the Dorito side, backing up. So 3 players left alive for Infamous, 3 players left alive for Vicious. Vicious good crossfield spread, and really, at this point, Vicious is playing really smart. Just gun up, shoot your guns, and just don't let Infamous make those moves. You see John Richardson trying to make something happen. He gets into the 50-yard line. Dorito. It's time ticking down on the clock. We're under 5 minutes. It's 4:30 left on the clock. Infamous gets their player, gets Greg Sewers out of the penalty box. So now Infamous has the player advantage. They're 4 players to Vicious's 3. I'm interested to see what Greg Sewers is going to do with this here. He's the swing. He's got the ball. And right now he's just supporting, and you saw as soon as Justin Swartz in the Snake was able to get a back player behind him, then he got a little bit more liquid here in the Snake and started to go to work. And there we go, passing the 50-yard line, and they lost the back corner player, so he's really going to be able to do a lot here. JR able to take out the back center, so it's just 1 Vicious player left alive. Infamous looking to make this a 2-point match. It's Greg Sewers and Justin Swartz, or I'm sorry, Marcelo. It's Marcelo in there. So Marcelo Margot able to do some work in here in the Snake. So it doesn't look like the knee injury is hampering him at all, which is good to see. It's you know, it's tough to see a really talented guy blow his ACL out like he did and have to struggle through that rehab, but he doesn't look like it's hurting him at all. And like I was saying before, I mean, he's one of the most talented guys out there, and if he can get his game to the levels it's been in the past coming off that injury, he's really going to be asset to Infamous. So it's going to be 4-6 with 3 minutes and 23 seconds left to play, which is, that's enough time for 2 points. This is a slower field. The teams have started to play it a little faster, but Vicious really needs just to get out wide and shoot their guns, carry an extra pot of paint, shoot that lane. And I think a lot of times when you hear that, when you hear, okay, get out wide and shoot your guns, that doesn't mean engage in unnecessary gunfights. It means that if they let you get a dominant position, roll your gun. That's where it comes into play. You basically want to stop the other team from being able to play paintball, and if you're constantly tapping their bunker, and not necessarily shooting, you want to shoot the bunker a little bit, but you want to shoot that inch, just an inch off the corner of the bunker, and just keep them from being able to make those next moves. And also shoot the gaps. If you get put in, if you're in a situation like this, 3 minutes and 23 seconds left to go, and you get put in, and you do have some good positions in the backfield, then you shoot the next gap. So when you get put in, it's not like you concede that. You immediately need to start peppering the lane that player is going to run through with paintballs, because they have to run through your paint. And that's the most effective way in a situation like that to try to get some kills. All right. Just about to start this next point. Both teams at full strength. Breakout from Vicious. Big breakout from them all the way to the 30-yard line. Dorito off the break. And it looks like 5 alive for Infamous. And here comes Sewers up the Dorito side of the field. Zach Wake trying to make it into the snake. Infamous pressing aggressively up the field. They like Rusty Glaze backing up Greg Sewers. And Greg Sewers just streaking down the Dorito side. Ends up getting shot, though, in the face. Zach Wake, though, plays off the chaos, able to get into the 50-yard line, snake side. And you're looking at Vicious right now on your screen. And Vicious just getting tore apart here. So nice job by Infamous. And Marcelo going to run that flag in. So nice job by Marcelo. And I kind of saw him, I don't know, was he limping a little bit? Kind of looked like he might have been, which again, with that knee injury, yeah, I can't quite tell. So we got ourselves a 1-point match with 2 minutes and 28 seconds left. Infamous doing a good job to fight, get back in this. And I've just been joined by Tim Montresor from Old School Philly Americans.
Yeah, representing the Canadians now.
Representing the Canadians now. Well, welcome up to the booth.
Yeah, got a nice breeze going here.
Yeah, it's a good view from up here.
Yeah, it's way better than down there.
Yeah, good breeze. Beautiful day today.
Yeah, no, this is pretty much perfect. You can't really beat this weather.
How's Pennsylvania these days?
Yeah, it's Pennsylvania. It goes. A lot of snow, a lot of rain. So. Good times, though. It was actually voted the #1 best city to live in, though.
Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is awesome. Love Pittsburgh.
It's a good time. So I was only going to live there for 1 year, and now I've been there 6 years.
Wow.
So it just sucks you in.
It's a good spot.
Yeah.
A little brutal in the winters, but it's a good spot.
Yeah. Better than Detroit, though.
Yes, so. Better than Detroit.
Detroit, Pennsylvania, it's a little bit nicer.
Yeah. So we got ourselves a 1-point match. Infamous. I'm going to give you one guess as to what their problem has been this game.
A couple Zach Wake penalties?
Couple penalties, yeah.
Yeah, no, we
wasn't even Zach Wake, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah, well, I think he did get a major penalty. I'm not quite sure, but they've been just, I mean, it's just been a red flag party down there for the referees. Yeah,
we practiced Infamous actually Thursday and a little bit yesterday as well, and they're playing well, but they just pushed the envelope a little bit. Kind of. Yeah, what's killing them in this game because they'd be dominating. I mean, they dominated the first points and rang up a couple, and then it was just 2 majors and a point. Right. Vicious comes back, takes the lead, and now they're scrapping back in it because they're playing clean. Right. Even before the game, I was like, yeah, key to Infamous's victory is play clean, and then they just didn't even come close to that. So definitely the most penalties assessed on a team so far, even though Chattanooga was
trying to set the record earlier on.
Yeah,
in
they
one of their
had a rough
matches.
stretch, and we talked with them about that too, because the roughing's a lot tighter out here on the pro field. And we practiced Chattanooga yesterday afternoon. We told them they should be a little bit more careful. And it's not that they do it maliciously. It's just one of those, you get nicked on the pack, and in divisionals you can keep going. The referees maybe aren't as tight, but out here they definitely don't give you an inch.
Yeah, and you've been playing at the top level of this game here with these referees for years. And you actually are one of the cleanest players that I've ever seen.
One penalty since Phoenix of 2008.
Yeah, I know.
One penalty till now.
I remember when we were taking the stats last year, and which is insane because you get a ton of reps.
Yeah.
You play like almost every point a lot of times.
It's funny too because the 2 years before that, I was second in the league behind just Oliver for 2 consecutive years.
Well, you learned your lesson.
Yeah, and it's you just gotta not push the envelope. You gotta trust your guys behind you, and you gotta say, hey, maybe I gotta take a second and check myself.
Yeah.
I know the guy behind me will cover that zone.
It also seems to be a lot of I think when the referees are mentally deciding whether or not first of all which penalty to call.
Right.
I think it has a lot to do with your body language.
Yeah.
Like did you make a legit attempt to actually check yourself or stop your forward motion? And you're pretty good at that, Maybe you learned your lesson.
Yeah, no, I learned a lot of lessons. I spent a lot of years in the penalty box. Actually, that was when they pulled the other people. So usually, like, Jay Tro spent a lot of time in the penalty box before me. We were just talking about that last night. He's like, man, I think I spent more time in the box during some matches because of you. They got to be on the field. I was like, maybe.
All right, so we got about 5 seconds to go for the start of this point. 2 minutes and 28 seconds left on the clock. Score is 5-6 in favor of Vicious. All right, and on the breakout, let's see if Infamous can get all their bodies alive. They are, and you can see on your screen they doubled up in that back center and then trying to get out, and they lose Zach Wake.
Vicious loses Brock out of the back center. This is kind of a tough spot, though, because now with Marcelo out in the snake corner over here, Travis has to kind of work into the snake, which really isn't his forte.
Yeah, and this is going to be interesting to see if, okay, here we go, move up on the, that's Rusty Glaze on the Dorito side of the field. And trying to match it now is Vicious.
Yeah, Marcelo needs to really not get hunkered down in this corner and make a move to counter Vicious in the snake. Because he's the only one that can really stop him from coming all the way down and shooting Rusty in the back. Oh.
And you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, 3 Vicious players zoned up right now. And that's really all they need to do with 1 minute and 36 seconds left. Though Infamous does have Rusty in that the 50-yard line Dorito, so he's in a position to potentially get some kills. But you can see that
got a little
here he goes.
There.
So Rusty trying to make something happen, runs into some guns, not effective. And here comes John Richardson. He's trying to make something happen. Minute and 15 left.
I can't tell Travis and JR apart sometimes when they're in the back center.
And here comes Greg Sewers now trying to come up on the Dorito side. And all they need to do is just try to tie this up. They got 1 minute and 5 seconds left to do it. Big move by Vicious over on the Dorito side of the field. I believe to get into that Dorito 50.
Yeah, JR needs to keep going. If he can get to that next knuckle of the snake, he can shoot the 50 out. This will be a huge kill right here.
Yeah, he's in a good spot. Let's see if he can get his, gets a shot cross field. Nice job by JR, putting in some work over here on the snake side.
Open. Greg should be making a move now, wrapping in on this little race.
Yeah, Greg needs to, someone needs to help him. He's got Marcelo behind him. JR's got Marcelo behind him, and he starts to streak downfield. And he makes a huge move all the way to the stand-up temple in the center of the field. He's going to try to cut a seam right here.
That's the move.
Here he goes, tries to cut the seam, ends up trading out, and then JR on the stunt. 22 seconds left, and JR is going to polish off Parker as the last player. Let's see if they have time to hang the flag. I don't think JR realizes how much time. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he should have enough time here.
So JR is going to, just in the nick of time, with 1 second left, hang that flag. Wow.
Keep it close. Keep it interesting.
I think I would have ran a little bit faster as I was in.
Maybe a little bit.
Just maybe a couple seconds.
Yeah, maybe had a little pep in his step there.
He's been telling me he's been doing cardio, but I see him wheezing over there a little bit.
He made a good move there, though.
Made a great move.
Yeah, filling the snake, coming over here, shooting the 50 Dorito. And to be honest with you, most of that game broke down with Vicious. Drew came all the way to Infamous's snake 4 here. Came up and just completely missed Rusty in the 50 Dorito. He's behind him. That opened the game up for Johnny to come in there.
That was a very, very clutch by Johnny to step up right when his team needed it, and literally with 1 second left, hang the flag.
That's what Johnny does best.
Yeah, that's what he does do best. That's why he's Johnny Richardson, man.
I heard it might be his last year. He told me that yesterday.
Yeah, he says that every year.
Yeah, he does say that every year, though. I asked him, I said, what are you doing here? I thought that last year was your last year. He goes, no, this is my last year.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll see. Yeah, he is getting up there, man. I think he's 36 now.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he's in really great shape.
Yeah, he is.
But the thing is that even though he physically is a specimen, the joints just don't work as well as they used to. You know.
No, I hear you.
And I mean, I'm sure you're probably starting to feel the pinch after all those years.
Yeah, the first time ever I start like playing paintball and I wake up, I'm like, man, I think it's starting to hurt. They never really hurt before.
Yeah, it's called getting old, brother.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too much fun.
How old are you now?
27. I just turned 27 in February.
Yeah, you still got to get another probably 6 years.
Yeah.
It just progressively.
Yeah, it just doesn't get any better, it seems.
Well, the problem is it's a pretty brutal game on your joints because you're diving around, you're crawling around, and the knees it's not a very forgiving sport on your knees particularly.
My chiropractor hates me. Says it's really not a smart move to be out here diving the way we do.
Yeah.
It's okay, though. I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
It's a good game, though, 6-6.
Yeah, this is a great game. So Infamous able to really pull it back from the jaws of defeat because of their penalties, and then really they just stepped it up.
Yeah, and it's always been Infamous's problem is those penalties because they're a great team and they really have a solid squad top to bottom. They just can't stay out of the box.
They can't. They have such a hard time staying out of the box, and it's always a problem for them.
Yeah, that's what killed them at World Cup. They really played well. They played really well at World Cup, but they always had a major, 2 majors, a couple minors. I mean, 4 or 5 penalties a game just doesn't cut it.
Yeah. So we got another technical timeout.
Vicious is playing well, though. They've actually been, since World Cup, right before World Cup, they started turning up a little bit. So it's always good to see the new kids on the block.
Oh, it's great. I'm really I'm stoked for them, man. I'm really happy that they just grind.
Yeah.
They have that Midwestern work ethic, and they get out there and play 1 billion points of practice and get up early and stay late, and they really have that tenacity on that side, on the training side of things, which ultimately is going to pay dividends because it's all repetition.
Right. Right.
It's also level. It's just they do live in the Midwest, so it is hard for them to get other pro teams to practice against. But they've been pretty good at trying to, at least as much as they can, get some reps in with other teams.
Yeah, and oddly enough, even though they're like I don't know, 4 or 5 hours south of Aftershock, they never practice each other.
That's weird.
They hate each other. I was on Shock, and all last year I tried getting them to set up a practice, and they just said it's completely unproductive. They'd rather just do drills and play each other, and it's kind of ridiculous, but.
What? Why do the Midwest teams always want to fight each other?
It's always been. I thought
it's always been that way.
When Avalanche was there too, when Avalanche was based out of Chicago the last year or so, they never practiced Aftershock. They never practiced Vicious. They'd rather just play themselves than play each other.
Which is funny because, like, in Cali, there's always
everybody plays each other.
Everyone plays each other, and I'll tell you what, sometimes the practices are unproductive.
Yeah.
But it's funny though because there's so many teams out there. So let's say that particular year you hate Dynasty, or not hate them, but you just when you practice them it's unproductive.
Right.
Then the next year it'll be excessive. Then the next year it'll be whoever. But there's always someone else you can play against. So it's like we can't get Infamous to play this weekend, so let's play the Ironman.
Somebody needs to go to the Midwest, just kind of make a treaty between everybody.
Yeah, right.
Kind of help improve the camaraderie over there.
Yeah. We need to bring in like Nelson Mandela and have like a sit down with everybody, talk through their differences.
Yeah, it's funny though. I mean, you would think that they really want to utilize each other at that level, especially if they don't play each other. Maybe not this event, but in the past, even if they're not in each other's brackets, they refuse to play each other.
So strange.
Yeah, it is weird.
I mean, I don't know. After being in the Midwest and knowing those teams for so long, it does make complete sense, but. On the logical side of things, it doesn't. On the emotional side of things, it does.
No, they hate each other, so there's absolutely no love lost there.
Yeah.
And hate's a strong word, but they really do. So.
I think it's that competitive thing. It's like, who's.
It's what makes paintball fun. If I didn't hate people, sometimes it really wouldn't be as much fun. I played the last 2 NPPL events last year with Arsenal, so I played with Oliver. And I'd probably gone about 3, maybe 4 years without actually talking to Oliver. And I told him when we were sitting in the hotel in Vegas, I was like, man, I'll be honest. I was like, I used to hate you. And he's like, I hated you too. I was like, I didn't really hate you. I just kind of hated your team. And then because you were there and you're loud, I hated you the most. He's like, I hated you the most too. I was like, well, I don't have to hate you anymore. He's like, well, I don't have to hate you anymore either.
Which is funny because, like, I'm really good friends with you, and I'm really good friends with Oliver, and I've known him for a long time. And you guys are both great dudes.
Right, yeah. So that's what I told him. I was like, you actually have a really nice dude. He's like, you're okay too. I was like, well, at least we're making progress here. But that's what makes it fun, though, that rivalry,
Nah, it is about rivalries, too. And it was funny because that was like, and I remember we talked about this before, but which was funny because I ended up being such close friends with all the Philly guys. But when I was raised in paintball, I was raised to
hate the All A's.
Hate the All A's. You respected Aftershock, though you hated them on the field. And we always got in like crazy, almost fights on the field with Aftershock. But everybody did.
Right.
Aftershock wanted to fight everyone back in the day. But yeah, we just despised the All A's. And then when we actually got to, especially when all of the new breed guys came on the team, and then, but even when I got to meet, Billy and Adam were fun too, So it's, you know what it is. It's like,
yeah, that's how it was for me when I joined the All A's. I just hated Aftershock. Hated everything about them.
Yeah, and I know it's funny because like back in the day, you didn't really kind of get to hang out with the other teams, kind of when there wasn't as many events. So there'd be 5 events a year, and that was it. You'd go and you just stay with your crew, and then you just play them. So you really kind of hated the mystique of the team really more. You're not hating the individuals. Well, some of them you hated.
Yeah, no, some people still hated guys. But I think a lot of it too had to do with the budgets as well, where you had to kind of pick your teams regionally, and so you had to have people from the Midwest. Like the Ironmen were always all California guys.
So after the conference, after the Zebra Party down there, they have decided that it will be an infamous player in the box. Or a vicious player in the box.
Huh. I wonder what that was for.
I wonder what happened.
Because it looked like Marcelo ran up and bunkered the back center, but Johnny shot the guy in the little race bunker, I think.
Well, we're going to find out in a second when we see who actually gets in the box.
Yeah. This could be a good year for Vicious, though. They're starting it out right. Infamous is a good team, so.
Yeah, I'm excited for them. I really hope that they have some success this year because it was a tough year for them last year, but I think that they also have that long-term view about everything.
Right.
I mean, you're a fool if you think this is going to happen overnight, and they're not fools.
It was a little bit hard. They brought in a couple pro players at the beginning of the year, and everything didn't really pan out so well for them. Kind of revamped their whole plan.
Yeah. All right, so it is a vicious player that will be in the box, and let's see what happens here. Sudden death overtime. On the break, 3 guns up for Infamous as they streak out on the Dorito side of the field, and Nicky Cuba thought he got shot, but able to make it in alive.
The Infamous player gets bounced into the can, but he's in a good position to fill into the sink.
Oh, Brian Bortle gets shot for Vicious, so now just 3 Vicious players left alive versus Infamous's 5, and it does not look good for them. And
that
was that an inadvertent horn?
Oh, actually, what I think should have happened there was if they got a major on the last 20 under the 90 seconds, I bet they pulled the major and then.
Oh, that's what it was.
That's
and we weren't actually in that.
So Johnny didn't even have to hang
that
the
was
flag.
heading. That was the last bit. So that's. But they're still going to have a minute and 40 seconds left.
Right.
In that major penalty to head into sudden death overtime. So we're heading into sudden death overtime right now, with the score tied up 6-6.
Yeah, I think Vicious made a couple big moves this year. They let go of, well, I guess it was last year, but they let go of Pat Roberts and Billy, which was pretty early. And they actually kept Drew, which I know Drew pretty well for playing on the All A's, and I know it's kind of hard for him because of where he's at with school to commute back and forth to Omaha. So him re-signing with them was actually a pretty big deal. And then they signed Brock, who actually just disappeared for like 4 years. I don't even remember Brock, but he used to play on
Diesel,
Avalanche,
Farside. He's been around for a long time.
Aftershock, maybe for a little bit, like when Axel first started.
Well, it was funny because like I see him out there, and I'm like, oh, it's Chris Hooker, and then I'm like, wait a second, is that Brock?
Yeah, I remember Brock a long time ago, like in 10-man, and he was he dominated some Midwest series around there for a while.
He's a nice guy.
He is a nice guy. I think the way the field's set up a little bit here suits him a little bit better. Some of the bigger bunkers back here to stand up. Yeah,
it does help to, especially, it's interesting because you're seeing a lot of teams double up that back center, which you can get trapped back there, though.
Yeah. No, I don't like it, but for some guys, it's their thing.
Yeah.
Makes you a big target back there.
Got about 20 seconds left to go here for the start of this last point. Score tied up at 6-6. We're heading into sudden death overtime.
Greg Sewers is out there. He's getting a lot of reps.
Yeah.
They just signed him a couple days ago.
And I keep Greg. he's still young, but he's not young in the sport anymore.
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
He's been on 4 different teams, I think, or more. So on the breakout here in overtime, and it looks like 5 players left alive. Nicky Cuba immediately into
Vicious got a major penalty, though. Brian Bortle got shot in the leg.
Oh, wow.
And that ends that.
And that's it.
Yeah. That was a tough one. I'm not sure if that was a major.
Yeah, I was looking over at Infamous at the time. So what do you think about that?
He got shot at his leg coming around that little race bunker, and I guess he took a couple extra steps and didn't really slow down. So it's kind of a discretionary call. Should have definitely been a penalty, but I don't know if it was a major.
Well, it's unfortunate for Vicious because they did look like they were going to win this match, and I'll tell you what, Infamous has got to be pretty happy considering that they had a ridiculous time with penalties this game and still were able to claw out the victory.
I'd like to say that maybe Infamous learned their lesson from all those penalties, but I don't think they did. So
I'm going to go with no because they won. If they had lost, maybe they'd go. But the same thing happened last year.
Even if they lose, it doesn't really teach them.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, they're not learning the lesson. But all right, so our final score here: Infamous 7, Vicious 6. Hard-fought battle, and we got tons more paintball coming at you. I got Tim from the Canadian team now, from Edmonton Impact. And we will be coming back at you with more paintball action. Don't go anywhere.